Well, we can't give you a definitive grade about the 2023 class because guess what? You got to have time for people to develop. But what we can tell you is what Andrew Berry's 2020 class looks like. We will talk about those individuals, give you a grade, and we'll talk about which one of those guys we would like to see stay, leave, and how long of a future do they have with the Cleveland Browns. Sit back, relax, and get ready for go down to a trip down memory lane with the Cleveland Browns 2020 draft here on the Locked On Browns podcast.
You are Locked On Browns, your daily Cleveland Browns podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome back, my friends, to the show that never ends, your daily delivery of all things Dog Pound LGB on the LOB, the Locked On Browns podcast, brought to you by the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Your host, Jeff Lloyd, at Jeff_LJ_Lloyd, Mr. Garrett Bush, part of the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show, Monday through Friday, 11 to 1 on YouTube. Of course, the Barbershop on 92.3 Fan every Saturday morning. You can check that out as well. Anything else, make sure you're following at GBush91. Appreciate everybody along for the ride here with Locked On Browns, all the day oneers, you guys. I'm sorry, the everydayers. Good Lord. Appreciate you guys. Again, you are the fabric on which this show has built. And just one thing, I was teasing a little bit yesterday here. Sirius XM, Cleveland Browns, Locked On Browns. Go ahead, check it out. It's going to be over there as well. Just more and more avenues here as the growth of this network it continues to astound me, and thrilled to be here. Obviously, an episode to get to here today. Bunch of stuff to cover. Garrett Bush, let the fine folks know what's on tap here today.
Oh, well, listen, man, we're going to talk about, and there's an intriguing prospect that the Cleveland Browns are bringing in. And let me give you a hint. He didn't play in college last year, but he has a little bit of upside. We'll tell you who this mystery man is and if he has an opportunity to make this roster. We'll also talk about these is getting kind of crowded around here. Crowded rooms is part of having competition. We'll look at the crowded defensive tackle room, and we'll prognosticate and let you know who we believe may be a cap casualty or some guys that could really get some playing time coming up in the 2023 season. But first, Jeff, let's get into the nitty gritty. We talked about it off top, grading the Cleveland Browns 2020 draft, and we'll tell you exactly who we believe might have a possibility to actually, be one of those guys that stays long-term, who may stay short-term, who may not get pushed, and who may not get extended. So now let's take a trip down memory lane and get to the Cleveland Browns draft in 2020 and let you know how we think Andrew Berry did. But first, let's take a look at this clip right here. This is a clip coming from, I believe this is Tyvis Powell on Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show. And Tyvis is talking about his grade and his initial thoughts on what he has seen so far from the 2020 draft class so far, and if he believes that these guys are truly a class that's worth remembering.
I don't want to C-. Yeah. Obviously, his career has been up and down. He has some highs, he has some lows, but it's something that's not concrete. When you look at him, he doesn't come off to you as a guy that, is he the left tackle for the future of this team? The answer is, I don't think so. So, therefore, I can't really give him anything higher than that. I think that they picked up his fifth-year option, just to give themselves some security. But obviously, with the picks that they've been given, I think they're trying to move on from him. So, C- is the grade for me.
So, Tyvis Powell.
Oh, wait a minute. So I'm not alone. Okay, so we're not rewarding players for just being average. But go ahead.
There we go. It looked at it, and look, man, I'll tell you what. Tyvis Powell, he didn't hold any punches with that, man. He talked about, and I think one of the ways you look at this situation, as we put the wrong graphic here. Let's get the right graphic here. Can we get that right graphic? Let's get to, we'll go with this. So he's talking about in terms of that draft class, he's talking about Jedrick Wills. And if that's the number one pick in the top 10, he was taking 10 overall. Jedrick Wills is a guy who is pretty much going to dictate what you think about this draft being a top 10 pick. You look at some of those guys and when you look at it, you have a Nick Harris, you have a Phillips, you definitely have Donovan Peoples-Jones, who turns out looks like he's going to be a guy that's going to be a potential guy that you may extend. You look at Jordan Elliott there, and you look at Phillips. When you take a look at this draft class here, it's going to be dictated by the guys at the top of the draft. And when you look at it, one of the guys that has been under fire, he did get the extension, is one Jedrick Wills. But I'm with Tyvis. If he's playing at an average level, I can't really give the Browns a great draft in terms of this, because they said they're going to pick up his 5th-year option. But as you can see, that doesn't mean that they extended him as a franchise left tackle, right? They didn't give him another 6-year deal worth of 150-60 million, right? No, they extended him to give him a better opportunity to show he's worth that pick. Donovan Peoples-Jones, I think, is a saving grace in this 2020 class, given the fact that Donovan Peoples-Jones is looking like a guy who's made the roster as a 6th, 7th round pick, and is a guy that's you can return punts. He's serviceable. He has good hands in that area. Also, he's turned himself into a really good receiver, 800 some odd yards last year. And I think he's the saving grace in this draft pick. And at the end of the spectrum, I think the most disappointing is Jordan Elliott, because he was given all the opportunity to take that by the bull by the horns, take that position, and he had 2 years and able to do that. He still has not shown that level of consistency, has not stopped the run. So there's a lot of mixed bag in this. Overall, I gave it a C, because the guy that you thought was going to be a top 10 pick has not played like it. Jeff, your thoughts?
Well, I mean, you go through this class here, and look, just going through it player by player, Jedrick Wills, and look, again, I will say it for the millionth time, and this is, and I think this is where the disconnect comes with fans and me. The Browns have as much responsibility for this not working out as Jedrick Wills. They drafted him to play left tackle. He's not a left tackle, and he was not a left tackle. Would he be better at the right side? We don't know. We're probably never going to see him there, certainly with the extension for Jack Conklin. But Jedrick Wills, he is not performed as a number 10 overall pick, and everybody, he's okay. It's okay. No, he was a number 10 overall pick. It should have been a slam dunk whether or not his 5th-year option was picked up, and his play should certainly, and honestly, if he performed like a number 10 overall pick, they probably wouldn't even considered the tag. They would have said, let's just go. Let's sign long-term. Let's get this done, and you'll be here for the rest of your career. No, they did not go that route. Graham Delpit, obviously, so much got washed by the Achilles injury as a rookie. Came back year 2, still recovering. Year 3, we saw the best of Grant Delpit in the NFL. And as far as the whole segment here, should they stay or should they go? Grant Delpit, I want him here this year. I want Grant Delpit here long-term, because he does a little bit of everything as far as the safety. And those guys are extremely hard to come by, and the pairing with Juan Thornhill works well. Jordan Elliott, we'll get to it in segment 2. It is a deep, deep room. And guess what? That does not bode well for guys like Jordan Elliott, who are going into the 4th season with the Cleveland Browns. Jacob Phillips was my guy at the time. And there's times where Jacob Phillips plays and he's a really good player. But you want to know what, G? He plays, about as often as weathermen are right. And it's just not enough. It is just not enough. Harrison Bryant was really, really effective as a rookie. The further we get down his career, it seems the further and further away he gets removed from having an impact for this team. Yeah. Nick Harris. Look, Nick Harris is the one guy I give an ultimate pass here to, because did everything that was asked of him. Was the starting center as far as practice was concerned for 2 seasons. Did every drop of it. Finally got his opportunity to be the starter. Bad luck hit him. That guy came in, basically got Wally pipped. Nick Harris's story is not going to be in Cleveland. It's going to be somewhere else. And finally, and this is the craziest thing about this entire draft class, G, the best selection of the 2020 draft class for the Cleveland Browns may have been the last one they made. Took a 5-star athlete who some people did not want any part of because he was a high academic guy. And you want to know what? Donovan Peoples-Jones, for whatever he did not learn at Michigan, he put it to task. He put himself on onus to learn everything he did not in the NFL that he did not learn at Michigan. And it's turned out to be a bang-up selection. So should they stay or should they go? Wills has got, till this year and another one. But you want, of this class, Grant Delpit, Donovan Peoples-Jones, I'll keep him. The rest of it, I'm done.
Yeah, I think this is exactly where I'm at. Jedrick Wills will be here for the, I guess, short term, and it will at least a couple more years. I don't
Well,
think
we
he's
don't
signed.
even know if he's going to be here for 24. They picked up the tag.
Yeah,
They picked up
but
the fifth round. They picked up the first round option, but
does not
if
mean
Dawan Jones,
necessarily he's
if
going to be the
Dawan Jones
player.
does his diligence, they can move him and say, "Hey, you can have him for whatever you'll give me." But go ahead.
I think Grant Delpit is I signed him and I started work with him long term. I think Jordan Elliott is a cut casualty. I think Jacob Phillips could potentially be a guy that could possibly get cut this year if they find a younger linebacker, like his skill set, but he's injured, only playing in 20 games. Harrison Bryant is a guy, like I said, he give you some dividends. To me, he's not a good enough athlete. Like, if you're not going to be a good enough athlete, you got to be a Jason Witten type. To me, he does not have that tenacity, that dog. He's a good tight end, but I'm not sure that he's going to be here long term either. Nick Harris is a crowded. We talked about offensive lineman last week. It's a very crowded offensive line room, given the fact Ethan Poach's got a big time deal. And so now it's like, hey, they drafted another center. So now it's like, okay, can you make the club from at a guard position, because he has done that. It's going to be tough for him. I don't think he's long term. And Donovan Peoples-Jones is a funny one, Jeff, because guess what? He might play so well that you can't afford to sign him long term, right?
There's a point to it, certainly.
That may be a thing, but I think definitely 1,740 yards, 100 receptions over his time period, been here 3 years, dependable, and I think he's a guy who should stay long term if the Browns have the cap.
No question about it. No question about it. And you look at it, and you take everybody else out of this class. You look at Donovan Peoples-Jones. When you draft a 6th round pick, you want to see growth. You want to see development. You want to see improvement. Box check, box check, box check. Donovan Peoples-Jones has done all of that. Jeff Lloyd, Garrett Bush. We're going to transition here. Segment 2, defensive tackle room. Man, a whole lot of big bodies in there. And there certainly ain't enough room for everybody. Some guys should be quaking in their boots who maybe have been here for a little bit of time. Jeff Lloyd, Garrett Bush, your latest Locked On Browns. If you're looking for a delicious snack, but you don't want all the sugar and calories, then you need the best tasting protein bar ever built. You've got to try this. If you're like me and you want to make healthier snack choices, but you don't want to compromise on taste, I've got just the thing for you. Built Bars and Built Puffs. Built Bars are healthy. They taste amazing. Seriously, they taste so amazing. You won't think they're good for you. You've got to try them. What makes them so good? Well, for starters, they're covered in 1% real chocolate. That's right, real chocolate. Unbelievable flavors like churro, peanut butter, brownie, and cookies and cream. I'm not sure how Built does it, but these bars taste like a candy bar while maintaining amazing macros. And what's even better is they're healthy, only 130 calories and 4 grams of sugar with a whopping 17 grams of protein. Head to your nearest Walmart today. Walk to the pharmacy section and grab yourself a box of Built Bars. You can pick up a 4-bar box of cookies and cream bars, double chocolate or coconut puff. If you're closer to Sam's Club, run in, grab a 13-bar box with our hit flavors, brownie batter puff and churro puff, and you can thank me later.
Welcome back to the Locked On Browns podcast. G. Bush in the building, Jeff Lloyd in the building. Thank you for making us your first listen of each and every day. Let's get to this. Jeff, it is a very, very crowded defensive tackle room all of a sudden. You take a look at what's been going on. They drafted, another defensive lineman. They signed Tomlinson, and we want to really, just highlight, there's a couple of guys who might not even be really part of this unit. They talk about this in the article. It says Myles Garrett's a little like Watson in that the Browns don't need a good year out of him. They need an extraordinary year. Garrett is capable of that. The Browns think that they found his rush complement in Okoronkwo. Wright and McGuire would need to play immediately, and Okoronkwo isn't in every down defensive end at 253. The team thinks Isaiah Thomas could be a keeper too, but we will need a big summer to crack the roster on after the rivals or Okoronkwo and McGuire. So you take a look, they kind of foreshadow what they have at defensive end, and they get to where the defensive tackles, the top 10 we have. We have Dalvin Tomlinson, just got him in free agency is our big move. Jordan Elliott, which we kind of detailed from the 2020 class out of Missouri. Maurice Hurst is a guy, free big time, not I would say big time free agent, but a free agent veteran that they think has some upside ability and still can play a little bit in this league. They just drafted Siaki Ika from Baylor, nose tackle, big body, going to clog things up. Perrion Winfrey, we talked about on this channel, obviously going through some off the field issues. Is yet to be seen what those charges are, and he potentially could be a person that won't be on this roster. You have Ben Still, also Tristan Hill, who they brought in free agency. Tommy Togiai, second-year pro out of Ohio State, struggled last year. Roderick Perry II, and Michael Dwimford. So these are the guys that are in that defensive tackle room right now. And as we said before, defensive tackles aren't going to be playing special teams. So, in learning what that means is you can carry extra defensive ends possibly because they can play on special teams. You can carry extra backers or corners or safeties even running backs because guess what? They play special teams, but
we don't put fat kids on special teams.
You need about 8. And sometimes they roll with 7 if they can't get them, right? 7 or 6. So you look at this, Jeff. Tomlinson is safe. That's 1. Ika is safe. That's 2. Pretty much if they gave money to Tristan Hill, Maurice Hurst, there's the 3rd and your 4th. That's 1, 2, 3. Almost 4. Got lost there. 4. And so now you may have 2 more. That you could talk about. Maybe they keep a guy like Roderick Perry. Maybe they keep a Perrion Winfrey. But it's going to be close. You would think Jordan Elliott, with being drafted in the 3rd round, would have something to say about that. But I'm not sure he's going to be a guy that's a shoo-in for making this roster a defensive tackle. What are your thoughts about the way this thing is stacking up?
Well, first things first, what we're not even talking about is I still think there's one coming. I still think there's a free agent defensive tackle coming. I still think they're going to bring in one more veteran because, with Hill, with Hurst, ideally the Browns would love for these guys to make this roster and contribute. But, you cannot, that's not a slam dunk. These guys have had a laundry list of things that have gone wrong for them as far as the time they've missed. So you can't just say, oh, we got Maurice Hurst and Tristan Hill. We're good. No, these guys, a lot of time missed. And you would think and the key guys here, Elliott, Winfrey, Togiai, you think you come into this with a blank slate. Elliott's a 1 year, 1 year left in his deal. The other guys have more time, and you think you're coming into this a blank slate. But can you win the job? Can you translate? Can you transition to a Jim Schwartz defense? Perrion Winfrey, ideally, Perrion Winfrey is probably the 5th defensive tackle here, and we're done. Legal issues obviously create a cloud there. But if you told me, who were the guys who are going to make this, I would say it's Tomlinson. I would say it's Hurst. Yeah, Hill. I'd say it's Winfrey. And, obviously, Ika. Those are the 5 guys that are making this roster. Roderick Perry was a nice story last year, and then blew out the knee, but a different story, played for a different defense coordinator. Michael D. Sorry, big guy. It's just not going to work out for you. Tommy Togiai, who knows? Maybe Tommy Togiai comes in and takes like a fishlet to water to a Jim Schwartz defense. But I still think there's one guy coming in here. Jordan Elliott, I just don't know how it works. And ideally, I think even if Jordan Elliott had a nice summer, I think ideally the Browns would be like, can we maybe move Jordan Elliott for something? Yeah. Because even if Jim Schwartz likes him, the Browns are going to say, look, we've seen this for 3 years. We got our hopes up for 3 years, and it never really panned out.
And Jeff, we're going to go to a clip really quick. Boogie Roberts of the USFL, he joined us on Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show, and I asked him a question because the defensive tackle room is very, I would say, crowded. What would you value as a defensive tackle? What would you value in looking for a defensive tackle? And could that be the difference between a guy making a roster or a guy not making a roster? It was interesting to see what his thoughts were. What do you value more as a D lineman? I be flipping sometimes. Do you value the pass rush ability, or do you value stopping the run? Like, if all things equal, they average, but one person has a little more pass rush ability or the other guy has a little more ability to stop the run, which one you going to lean towards?
Pass rush. pass rush because you can affect the game more as a pass rusher. More opportunities to get the ball back for your offense, strip sack fumbles, changing, flipping field position, and things like that. It's easier to scheme up a guy on a run because you can just double team him. He might be the best run stopper, but you can take two. As opposed to, especially on this roster, a pass rushing guy, you can't double team the dude on the inside because you got Myles Garrett on the outside. Right. So I'm going to take the pass rushing ability just in today's game. As much as they throw the ball, more opportunities to affect the game and help my team win.
You know, Jeff, your thoughts on that, you know, in terms of the pass rush ability.
Here's the problem. And I'm going to take you back to last year's Atlanta Falcons game. Guess what? It didn't matter because you never got the opportunity to rush the passer because the ball was shoved down your throat. So you guess what? If I got a defensive tackle who is a great pass rusher and I can't stop the run, what in the world is a guy to me? What is he to me? You know what I'm saying? Like, how does that work? This guy plays great in domes. Well, that's great. My stadium is in a dome. You know what I'm saying? Like, how does this guy, how do you apply that guy if you can't stop the run? And here's the key to it is if you're and look, none of these defensive tackles the Browns have outside of Tomlinson have shown any propensity to contribute as a pass rusher. I don't know if you want these guys on the field anyway. Big boys, go do your work. And then now I'm going to take those guys who are built like NBA 2 guards, but way too much and aren't quick enough, but they're great on the edge. And guess what? I can kick Myles Garrett inside. I can kick Alex Wright inside, and I'm going to play more defensive ends and obviously passing situations. Look, if you can't stop the run, it don't matter what kind of pass rushers you have because you can't stop the run. Ain't nobody rushing the pass.
Yeah, listen, like we always say, you got to earn the right to rush the quarterback, and that involves stopping the run on first and second down. So, you know, you can look at it both ways. It's to be interesting to see how the Browns evaluate these guys and to see who's going to really, you know, come out in terms of the competition and make their mark on that position.
Biggest key to that entire conversation is, guys, as you're growing up, learn to play both sides of it. Learn to be able to be contribute as a pass rusher. Learn to be able to be strong enough to contribute in the run. You know, and those guys, look, I mean, they don't come around a lot. You know, there's very few. And the Aaron Donalds of the world don't exist. And that's what I always used to love about talking about with all these draft prospects. Who you watching? Who's filming like Aaron Donald? Well, son, man, I hate to break the news to you, bro, but you can watch all the Aaron Donald film you want, man. But that is one of a kind. Jeff Lloyd, Garrett Bush. We're going to close it out here. Segment 3. The NFL minor leagues. Browns may have some eyes on something coming out of one of those leagues. We'll get to that. Jeff Lloyd, Garrett Bush, your latest Locked On Browns. As said earlier in the show, SiriusXM, Locked On, every NFL show, every MLB show, every NBA show, all the college shows. Look, the more places we can be put, it ain't going to change nothing here. YouTube listeners, you day oneers, nothing changes. You've been here. Make sure you're subscribed on YouTube. Make sure you got the notifications on. Audio side, go to your favorite podcast platform, and you will find Locked On Browns available and for free always.
You know, we want to thank everybody for making this a first listen of every single day. And Locked On Browns podcast is your team every single day. Now, let's get to it. We kind of teased this a little bit. Browns are bringing in a very intriguing prospect. You know, usually go after guys, you know, free agency guys that are in the league. Obviously, the draft, you're looking at younger players and players to bring in. But we do have 2 leagues out there that are your spring and summer football leagues in the USFL and the XFL. And the Cleveland Browns have announced that they're going to bring in they're going to bring, now this is tough. Peter
Tumapena,
right? We'll say
Tumapena.
Yeah, we'll wait till these guys give us the correct pronunciation. However, he's the SFL Defensive Player of the Year. He recorded 7.5 sacks for the for the Vipers in the XFL. The Cleveland Browns are bringing this guy in for a workout and a physical and things like that. And I think this is good, man. It's always great to see this in the sport, right? We had Boogie Roberts on from the USFL. We've had a couple other guys that have been in studio for the USFL. Not too many XFL because the USFL is stationed in Cleveland, by Cleveland and right in Canton. And they play their home games at Tom Benson Memorial Stadium by McKinley, my former stumping ground. So, those guys come up, make the trip up 77 and bless us and come on there and talk about what they're doing and the projects they got. We've had Moose Johnson on, Daryl Johnson, as we know him, former Dallas Cowboy, and he is the president, I believe the commissioner over there at USFL. So to me, I like this because it's giving our guys an opportunity to really develop themselves, continue to work on their craft, and to prolong their dreams and the ultimate goal of getting to the top level. And sometimes good teams are able to do this. I look at teams that are able to transfer and think of guys outside. Julian Edelman, Mac receiver. Bill Belichick takes him, switches him to a slot receiver, and he becomes one of the guys. I think he's a former NFL MVP of the Super Bowl. So, him taking a look at guys like, Antonio Gates, former basketball player at Kent State, didn't play no football at Kent State. However, you transfer him into a tight end with the Chargers, and he becomes one of the best tight ends of all time. So good teams are going to find guys anywhere you are. And they always say, stay ready so you don't have to get ready. And this is a league where you keeping your skills sharp, you're being able to play the game. And if they do give you a call, at the end of the summer and going into the fall to join the camp, you already, guess what? You're already in game shape. You're already ready to go. You're in peak performance shape, and you're already lathered, ready to do it. So this is a good move. I commend the Browns for bringing him there, and we'll see what he got. So shout out to the Browns for doing that and turning over every tire to find talent.
Look, first things first, what is the point of the XFL and the USFL? I doubt the profit that they're making, if they're making, is that exorbitant that people are getting fat off of it. The point is that so many guys can get lost in the process, whether it's an injury. Nick Harris example, you get, all of a sudden you're just obscured and all of a sudden nobody knows anything about you. So many guys go to NFL camps every year. You can get lost in a camp. Look, you're not ready. You're young. You're confused. You were a guy that was drafted. Maybe they didn't truly love you, but they said, hey, here's a good value pick for us on day 3. Even though we already have 5 DNs, I'm going to draft this kid anyway. And he probably doesn't have a shot in hell to make this team. So you need your opportunity to, take what you've learned and show whether or not your craft has improved. And it has taken an opportunity. Now, here's a guy, and I give him credit because, look, to go play at that age in one of these leagues, and the money ain't great for these guys. It's not. The injury risk is certainly huge, and I doubt what how much you are protected within these leagues. But you take a shot. You go and say, hey, look, I'm not done yet, man. I've done this every day since I was 8 years old. So, but you bring this guy in, and look, the Browns, there could be a spot at 4th, 5th defensive end here. There certainly could be. But you're not doing your homework if you're Andrew Berry, if you're not exploring these leagues and seeing if there's something that can be brought in that can improve your roster. The Browns maybe have 10 roster spots that you could say are legitimately open between now and week 1 of the NFL season. But you're never hurting for pass rushers. You see the picture of the kid. He can obviously kick inside nickel and dime if you want him to. And the other thing is sometimes it ain't the worst thing in the world, to bank on a guy who's already had it taken away from him and had to, basically scrape, claw, crawl his way back into it. Mm-hmm. Those guys are intangible sometimes because you know what? Myles Garrett even looks at him and says, you know what? I was gifted everything because I was just that good. You could have said, screw this. I'm taking my stuff. I'm going home. I'll go coach ball at my local high school, whatever. I'll teach gym, da-da-da-da-da. But the fire never died. And, those guys, they're always ones that, you kind of root for. You just do because, look, G and I are here and we talk about the fact we used to play, but yeah, we're here now. You know what I'm saying? The fire is still here, but we understand our time came. But, it's a tough time to hear that your time has come and it's time to go another spot here. Hopefully, the XFL, the USFL, they get a couple of these guys to hit because it gives sustainability. And, it gives an opportunity for people to truly watch games, 365 days a year, 12 months a year, all of that stuff. But, this is the point of what these things are supposed to be. They're supposed to be a breeding ground for guys who got either missed over, glossed over for whatever reason. And, starting to see some of these guys get tryouts. Browns are bringing in a cornerback too, aren't they? They're bringing in a cornerback, played like Sacramento or something. And he tore up, the XFL this year. This is the whole point of these things. And it's good to see that the NFL isn't basically Xing it out. They're embracing it and saying, all right, well, if you've cultivated some of this talent, these guys have shown out, let's give them an opportunity to go from one stage to an even bigger one.
Well, yeah, definitely. It's just, I look at it like this. It's a great opportunity to find these guys. And, coming from Jeff, you and I played college football at smaller schools. And we all know guys that could have competed at the highest level. It's just
one of the best players I played with in college was a phenomenal player in the Arena Football League.
Mm-hmm.
Phenomenal player named Will Holder. Will, miss you, bro. First dude I ever saw with my own two eyes run a 4.340.
Right.
Like, you heard the term, but when you actually saw somebody run 4.3, oh yeah, that hit different. That hit real different.
That hit a little different, right? And sometimes the only difference between those guys that you play with is the opportunity, is the eyeballs.
And that's one of it, because everybody, they'll find you. They'll find you. They'll find you. Even if they do find you, you get like a Nick Harris. And got, where the opportunity comes and boom, it's like that. It's over. Nick Harris isn't going to be here this year. And less than 365 days ago, he was the starting center for the Cleveland Browns.
Right.
He might not even most likely he's not going to be even a member of this team come September. It's crazy, crazy.
Listen, it's funny how it goes, man.
But we got to put a bow on this one, kids, here. So here what we got to, obviously. And we can get to 21. We can get to 2022. But, starting to reevaluate the draft classes that have been made here by Andrew Berry. 2020, first one, COVID, obviously very, very difficult. But there were some hits. And obviously we got to that. Defensive tackle room, what I'm saying? We're looking at about 10-man, a couple more guys going to be brought in, 12-man battle royal. For maybe 5 spots. And the other thing is there might be one guy that just kept around in case the Perrion Winfrey situation becomes a little more clarity. It seems like the Browns are going to stand by Perrion as far as the player. We'll see how that works out. And obviously, closing it out here, XFL, USL, FL. There's a reason for this. And, the Browns, look, no stone unturned. Andrew Berry's going to do his job. He don't care where it is, where you come from. If he thinks you can be a part of this team, he can contribute. They're going to go find you. He is Garrett Bush. At GBush91, Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show, Monday to Friday, live, YouTube, 11 to 1. Of course, 92.3, the fan on-air personality. The barbershop open every Saturday morning. Cavs, Guards, Browns, you name it. G-Bush got you covered over there. Myself, Jeff Lloyd, at Jeff_LJ_Lloyd. The show at Locked On Browns. We appreciate all the day oneers who make this show every dayers. Good God, what am I doing, G? Ross Jackson's going to text me right away. I can see it's coming. But the everydayers of Locked On Browns, you guys, again, are the fabric of which this show is built, which gives opportunities where Locked On Browns can now be heard on SiriusXM. YouTube listeners, make sure you subscribe, notifications on. When the content drops, you guys are ready to consume it. Audio-wise, go to your favorite podcast platform. We are always there. We are always free. This has been your daily delivery of all things Dog Pound. LGB on ELOB. Let's go Browns.